Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Emmy Hashimi. I am a doctoral student in California, a freelance human rights advocate and journalist. I've decided to put this documentary together after completing a major project on the narrative of a leader. The leader I chose to interview is a man who has risen out of the ashes of war and conflict, lived through turmoil and tragedy during his younger years, followed in the footsteps of great leaders like Croce or Cyrus the Great, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Gandhi, and many more. This documentary is about Abdul Ali Faiq, one of the co-founders of the United States of Democratic Federal of Khorasan government in exile. The story of Abdul Ali Faiq is a 4-part episode towards establishing the United States of Democratic Federal of Khorasan. On October 17, 2024, I had the honor and pleasure of interviewing Mr. Abdul Ali Faiq, a social justice leader who rose from the ashes of war and conflict in his home nation of Khorasan and co-founded the United States of Democratic Federal of Khorasan.
First of all, thank you so much for giving me this golden opportunity to connect with you and to pass my humble experience about leadership and about state buildings and nation buildings and organizational building. And it's my honor and privilege. I'm extremely cheerful and grateful to be with you.
Mr. Abdul Ali Faiq established USDFK to bring back the identity of his nation, which was named Afghanistan in the late 1800s. As a result of changing the name from a heterogeneous name like Khorasan to a homogeneous identity linked only to the Afghan Pashtun ethnicity, in a nation which is made up of over 34 ethnicities, cultures, and languages, over time a deprived people like Mr. Abdul Ali Faiq, who is an ethnic Tajik, also known as the Iranians of the East, of their human rights. I was born in north of Khorasan in 1980. In other words, I am a child of war. I was born precisely in a war zone. So I grew up with the mindset of conflict, instability, dilemma, and perplexity.
As you know, I was born in north of Khorasan, and precisely I was born when my mom was pregnant in 1979. In other words, I am a children of war. I was born precisely in a war zone.
I belong to Tajik ethnicity, and my ethnicity has been used and abused by the Afghan Pashtun tribes in power. I personally have not experienced any cheerful day in my lifetime. All I have experienced and I saw was misery. I was part of those miseries. Not only me, my family, my siblings, my neighbors, uncles, and auntie, so on and so forth.
I brought up with a mindset of conflict and instability and dilemma and perplexity. I personally haven't experienced any cheerful day in my lifetime. So all I experienced and I saw was misery. So I was part of those misery.
Until I entered school. We're basically immigrants from north of Khorasan, from a state called Panjshir. We were 12 brothers and sisters from the same mama and daddy. 6 brothers and 6 sisters. A very massive family. We were expelled from our place by Russia and were transferred by force to Kabul, the capital. It was a communist regime then. From those periods of time, I had a notion that we have to bring a paradigm shift. We have to do something to bring a change, a positive change.
From those periods of time, I had a notion that we have to bring a grand paradigm shift. We have to do something to bring a change, a positive change. So therefore, this notion of state building cultivated in my mind since my childhood.
Which motivated me and pushed me to be responsible, creative, invoked, invented, and objective as well. There was a lot of confrontations with the Russian regime and Mujahideen. My father was a part of those northern leaders, but he was not a Mujahid. He was living in the capital. So that's why my father was confronted by Russia, and my elder brother, Sharif Faiq, killed by the Russians.
I mean, there was a lot of confrontations from Russia regime about Mujahideen and about those holy war, warriors. And my father was part of those northern, leaders, but he was not a Mujahid. He was living in the capital. So that's why my father was confronted by Russia, and also my elder brother, he was killed by Russia.
He was only 19. Also, my auntie's family was destroyed and punctured by Russia's helicopters. So those days made us very unhappy, particularly my mom, who was traumatized and tantalized and psychologically disturbed after my brother was shot by a Russian commander. My mama truly and honestly, my hands and my heart, inspired me based on morality, sincerity, and honesty. She was a very serious woman, a very beautiful woman. She taught me that honesty is the best policy and sincerity is the key to success. That I learned from my mama, despite not having a formal education, but from a psychological point of view, she was one of the most knowledgeable in psychology. She was a psychologist, believe me. She was very smart and the center of my inspiration, not only for me, even for my siblings as well. My mama was very serious, very beautiful, and very funny at the same time. My father was humble, very, very calm, despite not having a formal education. Only I think he completed 10th grade. His mathematics was very, very good. He was a shopkeeper. He was confronted by the communist regime's secret intelligence and so on and so forth, and he had been hurt so many times and on so many occasions. So his life was not a very joyous one, but he always kept his smile. He was very positive and a great dad for all of us. We love him and we remember. Those days reflect my childhood, where we thought there is one thing that's war and one thing that's conflict. We did not have a lot of privilege of a good education and a good lifestyle. So all those issues impacted me as a child and impacted my family and my siblings. That's why we suffered a great deal. However, those suffering and struggles and conflicts made me strong, accountable, and responsible. was very young in 1993 when I left Khorasan, around 14 years of age. I came to Libya, Tripoli, starting a new life from scratch. I left Khorasan with little experience and no knowledge about university, academy, and study or research. There, I found another big obstacle in front of me about Arabic language.
So I spent 8 years of my golden time in Libya to study Arabic language and Islamic studies and about pre-Islam history of Arabs. And that also, the foreigners and also from my family, from my mom, from my siblings, that impact me as well. When I saw my family after a long period of time, and all my sisters got married, most of them, my brother got married, even they didn't recognize me. So that's painful.
قصه ها گل می کند گل شاخه ها می شکند دل خانه ما جدا جدا می شکند بال مرغ بخت ما روی هوا می شکند.
I am a British citizen today. I came as an immigrant to Great Britain on the 9th of September 2001. In the land of opportunity, Great Britain is an amazing and beautiful and brilliant country. I got my first degree from Kingston in Great Britain history and politics. Additionally, I got my master's from the same institution, one of the most prestigious universities in the UK. On top of that, in 2021, I graduated from Oxford University. All those privileges have been granted by the UK government, and I will be grateful for the rest of my life. Today, I can say I've spent over £100,000 on myself to get an education. But I'm very happy, very positive, and very optimistic with what we are doing for our generations to come. Now I have a lot of qualifications in my life, and believe me, there's no limitations, and there is no finish line. Having said that, I also graduated from John C. Maxwell School of Thought and Leadership Program, the entrepreneurship company I worked for. TTM, Tragic to Magic, hosted me, taught me not to say I am a leader, but we let people call us a leader if we really are, because leaders produce leaders, not followers. On May 22nd, 2022, a group of entrepreneurs, enterprise holders, businessmen and women researchers, students, publications, social activists, women, and animal activists established the United States of Democratic Federal of Khorasan, a government in exile.
United States of Khorasan is an exile government which established on 22nd of May 2022 with numerous of intellectual students, civil societies, character personalities, politicians, and ordinary citizens based on virtualization.
We have a lot of experience and will accumulate a lot of experience from divergent places and divergent backgrounds, countries or nations to contribute for nation building, whether in contributions to Great Britain, to any country, and for humanity. We need self-actualization and self-building.
So 3 major change we will bring as economy, and also social change and political change. And we have this sagacity, we have this capacity, and we have this tenacity.
بیاشیانه گشتم خانه به خانه گشتم بی تو همیشه با هم شانه به شانه گشتم عشق یگانه ای من از تو نشانه ای من بی تو نمک نداره شعر و ترانه ای من.
I was motivated to take this major responsibility using my negative experiences, unhappy days, and my unhappy childhood as motivation to make society better for others. I am a sort of individual who strive for more and never settle for less. That's why I always believe in myself and I always educate myself, which contributes massively to build and to bring positive change where we are living to the region and the world.
We are the richest country on the face of the earth, but we are selling our livers and our even children north of and south of Khorasan. Pashtuns are selling their wives and their children and their part of their bodies on eBays. Imagine the most, richest country on the face of the earth, but because of the negligence of our leaders, unfortunately. So the first thing we will implement in Khorasan is economy change, and also a social change and political change.
I am using the knowledge I have gained from Oxford Leadership Prospectus and from John C. Maxwell, Greg Provenzano, Steve Jobs, George Zalewski, and many more. I believe that leaders always prepare their mindset to make historical decisions. When I go back to those days, I'm feeling great. I'm extremely cheerful, and I am so happy that I made those historical decisions. That brought a bold change in my personal life and my educational life and society and belonging to and the country we built. So that is my humble experience about historical decision. When the Taliban came to power, I said, Khorasani, you will never go to Harvard University. I was supposed to go to Harvard University. I was accepted. Then I start to build Khorasan, the United States of Khorasan against the Taliban, those dark, ruthless criminals and ruthless fascists.
If you see here, I wrote goal for 2021. It's in my mobile. Still it's in my mobile. Buying my home, being fit, and going to Harvard University. Harvard University is part of my plan. It's not my dream. I can achieve it. When I graduate from Oxford, I can graduate from Harvard. So these three was my personal goal. When the Taliban came to power and I made a decision, I said, Ali, you will never go to Harvard University. So instead, I supposed to go to Harvard University, I was accepted. Then I start basically to build Khorasan, United States of Khorasan against the Taliban. So that was really, really a very bold question and a bold decision in my life. And I made a lot of, I thought a lot about it. And I made a decision. I honestly gave up to a lot of personal things in order to achieve a grand, vision, and to achieve something behind my calculation and imagination. And I didn't make a mistake in my decision. Of course, I lost a lot of things in order to gain a lot of things right now. And we really, really created a grand vision for our generation. We precisely brought, a notion that we can. And now people are so inspired, so motivated, and so educated. And only you can put your hands in my heart and your head in my shoulder to understand what I'm saying. It's very, very difficult to transfer and to translate feeling to words.
So that is my humble experience about historical decision. We precisely brought a notion that we can, and now people are so in a spark, so motivated and so educated. It's very, very difficult to translate feelings to words unless you can touch people in their hearts and feel how much they are hopeful now for a new modern USDFK. Everyone can live there with peace, tranquility, with good economy, education, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, human rights, women rights, children rights, and animal rights. Everything you have mentioned about permissive society, civic society, about inclusiveness, about solidarity, unity, equal opportunity, and equal rights has been written or contextualized in our Constitution.
I love America. I accidentally, Amy, I came to Great Britain. I supposed to be in America. Honestly, I have been and still inspired by this great nation. You have no idea how much I love America.
The American nation, having a vibrant and dynamic political system, is truly inspiring and miraculous. So I was inspired by many presidents of the United States of America, including Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, George Washington, the father of the nation, and Steve Biko. Those leaders are the legends of all times. We cannot live in a solo ethnicity state like South Korea, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan because these are ethnic names. That's why we brought a lot of multiculturalism in Khorasan.
Multiculturalism, I can say, in Khorasan, and we basically textualize all ethnicities and all religions and all school of thoughts. For example, it is very, very difficult to mention the Christianity in Khorasan, but we textualize that our Christian community should be protected no matter how, like any other individual inside Khorasan. Having said that, about Jewish as a whole, they're a vulnerable nation, unfortunately, across the world, and particularly in my country, in a very patrimonial society, in a very religious dominated society, in Jewish, living as a Jewish is impossible, but we made it possible. So that's why, and we mention in our constitution the name of Jewish, or Yahud, because they have a right. And we have nearly 2 million, up and down, Christian, Jewish, Hindu, and Sikh. But none of them has been remaining in Khorasan. All those people, they left their countries with tears. So that is why all the rights are protected in our constitution.
Khorasan means simply a place where the sun rises. Khorasan does not belong to any ethnicity. It belongs to all people who are living in the Khorasan regions. So it's a very deep discourse, and it's a historical discourse, and we do not have much time to elaborate on this. Khorasan is the land of enlightenment, advancement, and innovation. The most prominent scholars from the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th centuries were from Khorasan. Some of them included Ibn Sina, Maulana Jalaluddin Balkhi, Abu Hanafi, Ferdowsi, Rabi'a Balkhi, and many more. So we have a lot of scholars, mathematicians, and artists from that time. Therefore, Khorasan basically was a foundation for knowledge and for enlightenment. The name unfortunately has been changed in the 19th century by colonial power Great Britain in order to protect Amir Abdul Rahman Khan, the Durrani dynasty, and they gave privilege for that ethnicity. Afghan, Pashtun, ethnic group who live in the southern regions of Khorasan, or what was changed to Afghanistan. They call our homeland of Afghan or Pashtun. So they changed the name from Khorasan, sunrise, to Afghanistan, which means land of Afghan. Historically, when we say Afghan, that is the equation of Pashtun, or the other way around as well. We have 34 ethnicities inside Khorasan. Afghan or Pashtun is one name, representing one tribe and one ethnicity, which has been imposed on other ethnicities. So it is a colonial name. It's not basically an indigenous name. That's why the conflict started in the 19th century.
مرگ به طالبان، مرگ به کرکت توپ دنده‌بازان، مرگ به غنی، مرگ به کرزی، مرگ به خلیلزاد، مرگ به افغان ملت، مرگ به افغان ذلت، زنده باد خراسان، زنده باد زبان پارسی.
The discrimination in the past and present has happened since the 19th century, when the name was changed from Khorasan to Afghanistan, and that's why we are fighting for justice.
When we say Afghan, this is the equation of Pashtun, or the other way around as well. So we have 34 ethnicity inside Khorasan. Afghan, Afghan, Pashtun is one name, represent one tribe. But one tribe, one ethnicity has been imposed to other ethnicities. We are Tajik. Tajik will never be an Afghan. But unfortunately, that was a process of assimilation, not integration. So that's why we are fighting. America is not an ethnicity name. Iran is not an ethnicity name. Pakistan is not an ethnicity name. But Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan is unfortunately an ethnicity name. It means land of Afghan, land of Tajik, land of Uzbek, land of Turkmen. So this assimilation, this imposed top-down process is not acceptable by our new generation, and especially by people who study and high prestige university like Harvard and Oxford and Cambridge and London School of Economy, King's. We are not accepting, because this is a flaw and this is a misleading concept and also identity. So we antagonizing it, we fighting it, and we put the saddle on the right horse.
We are fighting for our identity. We're fighting for solidarity and unification among all ethnicities. Afghan is an imposed identity from leadership at the top to non-Afghans. So this assimilation imposed from the top down is not acceptable by our new generation, and especially by people who study like me. We're not accepting this because this is a flaw, a misleading concept and identity. So we are antagonizing it, and we're fighting it. Conflict will come with a lack of knowledge, lack of professionalism, lack of hard work, and lack of commitment. Having said that, when you become a leader by example, it will be very easy to attract and impact other people by your actions, not your words. People listen to you and are following you because you are leaders. You lead by example. From my humble experience, I have experienced less conflict because we have to prevent conflict on a perpetual fashion. When you think about problems, you get problems. When you think about solutions, you will get solutions. Therefore, you are always moving in the direction of your thinking. In this sense, our mindset should be positive, constructive, and optimistic. So that's why we experience a lack of conflict, and we do not need to manage those conflicts. That is the mindset we basically set and we operate, and that's why we have limited conflicts, and we do not have a team to manage the conflicts, because every day we are paying the price. Every day we discipline our disappointment, and every day we are working hard. When you are working hard, I promise you, there is no room for making mistakes or conflicts. As I said, conflicts come from a lack of commitment. So we are fully all in. We are fully in charge, and we are fully in a power position. So we do not let any conflicts happen in our workplace, institutions, organizations, in our team, and so on and so forth. In a tribal society, democratization or democracy is not a remedy. Democracy is a big threat and challenge for a tribal state. So tribal societies are based on jingoism, based on principles a man designed. So when we established USDFK, we had a lot of verbal threats and a lot of threats from Afghans or Pashtuns, Taliban, and other terror groups. We are receiving a lot of messages, and our family has been traumatized as a result. So that's why it is a very tough mission, a very challenging responsibility we got. Basically, we established a government against Talibanization, against the Emirate of Taliban. They are antagonizing us, fighting us, threatening us, and they send a lot of messages, and we have a lot of examples. Even my personal security is in jeopardy. When it comes to a pluralistic society, there is people and the citizens making decisions. We have referendums, elections, and a voting system. But in order to bring a grand paradigm shift in our society, you need to pay the price. We pay the price. Do you think Martin Luther King Jr., when he said, "I have a dream," was it easy? It was not easy.
امروز حقانی‌ها را جوابش دادیم، امروز طالبان را جوابش ندادیم. حالا کس ایالات متحده خراسان که هست آمده، در صحنه آمده، حالا کس کلمه‌تان هم بخوانید، دیگه ما شوخی نداریم.
So we're not afraid of challenges. We are not afraid of being threatened. We have to deconstruct these premises. We have to deconstruct clericalism and traditionalism in order to establish a modern state everyone can enjoy. And that's our aim. And we are proud to say this. And of course, there will always be challenges and animosity. But we have designed our mindset to fight and to defeat it no matter how. Therefore, we have a complex conviction in our hearts that we will prevail. Our conflicts, if you put it in a historical context, is ethnicity or ethnical conflicts. When we address equality both as an opportunity and equal rights and equal opportunity, I think there would not be any conflicts. It's all about the distribution of power and the delegation of power, the devotion of power. So how we distribute the power and delegate the power for all ethnicities inside Khorasan. If you go a little back to Sasanian dynasty, that was the center of civilization. Those days, despite it was not a nation state, they built a sort of national nation states. So the equal rights and opportunity has been implemented in Sasanian dynasty, and we have a lot of solidarity in our history, a lot of unification in our history. We have been fragmented society since the tribe of Afghan came in 1747 and the conflict started. The Afghan Pashtun or Pathan tribe came from Iran. After the Nader Afshar passed away or killed, Ahmad Khan Abdul Ali or Ahmad Shah Durrani, the dynasty of Muhammad Zia or Durrani dynasty came to Khorasan. They had learned the Persian language and had adapted to our culture. They learned a lot. But from the 19th century, the real problem started. The discrimination, nationalism, jingoism, and fascism. The hegemonism of Pashtun dominated our society, and everything had gone from bad to worse. Till now, we are paying the price. So, we learn from those mistakes, and we make sure we, as Persian Khorasani, will not repeat the same mistakes as Afghans, Pashtuns did in the past. In a sense, we are in a power position. There is no government in Khorasan, only we have a democratic elected government, which is USDFK. So, we make sure that all ethnicities, rights, and security are protected. And that's why we will face conflict. There is no doubt, because we are a tribal society, a post-conflict society. It's very, very difficult. But we know where is the big mistake. We know where is the big issue, and we can handle, we can address, we can maintain, and we can put it in the right place. So that's our experience and mission. I have a range of legends and heroes who inspired me a great deal. I was inspired by Martin Luther King Jr., John C. Maxwell, George Washington, and many more.
And overall, Emmy John, I have been inspired by myself as well. And I really, really respect myself. And also, I am being inspired, and also motivated, and by myself. And I'm proud to be someone who leads me. That's myself as well. Please add these words anywhere, maybe your interview as well. I was not partially, and I was fully inspired by your character, Emmy, as well. This hangs in my heart for so many reasons. First of all, the level of education you have in our society is priceless. The humbleness, the character, is second to none. And also your tough experience is absolutely miraculous. And also the ambition, the dream, the plan you have is inspiring as well, So that is why we have rarely, like you as a scholar and a mother, a leader, educator, we're limited. You know that, I know that in our society. Then I am very, very proud to have this interview with you. And you are also, a source of my inspirations, educations, and motivations, hands in my heart. That was the words came from my heart.
بی تو همیشه با هم شانه به شانه گشتم عشق یگانه ای من از تو نشانه ای من بی تو نمک نداره شعر و ترانه سرزمین من خسته خسته از جفای سرزمین من به سرود و به صدای سرزمین من دردمند و به دوای سرزمین من سرزمین من خسته خسته. That will be great.
Hello everybody, my name is Emmy Hashimi, the author of Abdul Ali Faiq's narrative, co-founder of A Government in Exile. I am a doctoral student in the field of education. What motivated me to conduct this interview with Mr. Abdul Ali Faiq was after my professor introduced a project to the class where we were asked to interview a leader. As a Tajik, a person from an Iranian of the East background, the first person who came to my mind was Abdul Ali Faiq, the co-founder of the United States of Democratic Federal of Khorasan. I've had many conversations about nation building with Mr. Faiq, and he was extremely passionate about the cause, which is mostly based on human rights for the marginalized people of Khorasan, a nation which was named Afghanistan by the English. In this portion of my presentation, I'm going to provide you with a thematic analysis. I have decided to take the thematic approach to sharing Abdul Ali Faiq's narrative to provide clarity to his journey from childhood into adulthood, with gaining the confidence and courage towards establishing an exiled government. Abdul Ali Faiq's story is inspiring for a social justice cause and towards building a just society for a marginalized people who have almost become invisible. I will be providing an analysis for each of the episodes through sub-themes with excerpts from the interview and how his story relates to the readings on poverty and leadership which we had discussed in this doctoral class. Episode 1, Born in War, Cultivating Courage and Bravery in a War Zone. Abdul Ali Faiq's younger years is captivating and moving to the human spirit, with understanding his social justice plight in the face of adversity. His close-knit, harmonic relationship with his mom, who was the center of his inspiration, touches every human heart. In the interview, Abdul Ali Faiq did not provide the exact date of his birth, since it was not documented or recorded, which paints a clear picture of his harsh reality and living conditions from the time of birth, where the birth of children were unknown due to their parents' lack of literacy and the government's lack of care for the people living outside the capital, especially in the non-Pashtun or Afghan regions. When speaking about his birth, he only noted, "I was born in north of Khorasan in 1980. Hence, from the time he departed from the warm womb of his loving mother and entered the burning fire of war and conflict, the tribalist government of the Afghan or Pashtun identity forced him to be invisible, like millions of other non-Afghan Pashtun people living in the northern and western regions. However, the hardships and adversities he was forced to face transformed him to become unbreakable, like a diamond under extreme heat and pressure." He stated in the interview, "Those days reflect my childhood, where we thought there is one thing that's war and one thing that's conflict. However, those suffering and struggles and conflicts made me a very strong and very responsible person." Abdul Ali Faiq's conflict-filled childhood mirrors Matthew Desmond's Poverty by America, a book written in 2023, where poverty and adversity is systematically created by the system. As Desmond describes in his book about how poverty takes people's humanity away, the tribalist government inside Khorasan's nation had established an unjust and deficit-filled system where people were forced to remain poverty-stricken even if they owned a business, like Mr. Faiq's father who owned a small business. Hence, people like Mr. Faiq were forced to remain in a constant state of struggle because that's how the establishment had designed it. Episode 2, Enlightenment through Education, Utilizing Education Towards Social Justice. At the young age of 14, when most kids in Western nations are busy being teenagers, Mr. Faiq was forced to make life-changing decisions with the advice of his family to leave his homeland for a better opportunity and education in Tripoli, Libya. He noted in his interview, "I left Khorasan with little experience and no knowledge about university, academy, and study or research. There I found another big obstacle in front of me about Arabic language, where I spent 8 years of my golden time in Libya to study Arabic language, Islamic studies, and learn about pre-Islamic history of Arabs. Even though Libya had its own set of problems as a nation, under the government of Gaddafi, it appeared significantly better than a constant war and conflict-filled environment of Mr. Faiq's home nation of Khorasan. Perhaps the only way for him to receive a better education. But despite the hardships he faced as a very young foreigner on a new continent in Africa, thousands of miles away from his beloved family, he survived through the many years of struggle in which he learned Arabic completely. Those experiences reshaped him into a highly intelligent and sophisticated man. In the interview he stated, "Today I can say I spent more than £1 million on myself to get an education, Kingston, Oxford, and self-improvement workshops in Great Britain. But I'm very happy, very positive, and very optimistic with what we are doing for our generations to come. Now I have a lot of qualifications in my life and believe there is no limitations and there is no finish line." Mr. Faiq's empowerment through education once again reminds me of Desmond's personal experience living in poverty, where he used education as the ladder to climb out of poverty and build a better life for himself. I see many similarities between Desmond's story and Mr. Faiq's because they both used education for empowerment to get their voices heard for a social justice cause. Episode 3, Nation Building and the Meaning of Khorasan, Utilizing Adverse Life Experiences and Education to Build a Nation. After many years of dedicated effort, Mr. Faiq and his team were able to establish the United States of Democratic Federal of Khorasan. Mr. Faiq stated in his interview, on the 22nd of May, 2022, a group of entrepreneurs, enterprise holders, businessmen and women, researchers, students, publications, social activists, women and animal activists established the United States of Democratic Federal of Khorasan, a government in exile. I am one of the co-founders of USDFK. We have a lot of experience and we will accumulate a lot of experience from divergent places and divergent backgrounds. Mr. Faiq's many years of continuous struggle for his rights as a descendant of indigenous Iranian people, today called Tajiks, motivated his actions with establishing USDFK. All those injustices he faced antagonized him against those in power. But instead, he constructed something positive by investing all his time and effort towards positive change, where all people, regardless of their ethnicity or background, can live in freedom, equality, and prosperity, where people could have the right to resources, jobs, and education, where people do not have to sell their children or their organs out of desperation. In the interview, he stated, I was motivated to take this major responsibility using my negative experiences, unhappy days, and unhappy childhood as motivation to make society better for others. I observe in Mr. Faiq's narrative the sensitization of wisdom, intelligence, and creativity, as mentioned in Robert J. Sternberg's article, The Person versus the Situation in Leadership. Sternberg states in his article, I believe the three key components of leadership are wisdom, intelligence, and creativity synthesized. The basic idea is that one needs these three components working together in order to be a highly effective leader. According to Sternberg's model, Mr. Faiq can be described as an effective leader because he is utilizing all three with his nation-building efforts. We can observe in his narrative the accumulation of wisdom from an early age, combined with his academic knowledge and intelligence, which has resulted in the creation of USDFK, an exiled government. Although Mr. Faiq does not believe in calling himself a leader, he is one according to Sternberg's model. Episode 4. Coping with Conflict and Leaders Who Inspired Him, following in the footsteps of great leaders. Conflict in Mr. Faiq's perspective is inevitable. However, according to his experiences and academic knowledge, he believes that we can prevent conflict through transparency, morality, integrity, accountability, and respect. Mr. Faiq aims to avoid conflict at all costs on perpetual passion. Mr. Faiq believes in a true democracy where people are at the forefront of making the decisions. He believes that the voices of citizens in a democratic society are very important, and that a democratic society based on pluralism would prevent conflict. In the interview, he stated, when it comes to a pluralistic society, there's people and the citizens making decisions. We have referendum, elections, and a voting system. However, Mr. Faiq believes that some conflict will happen, but that will not prevent them from their challenging responsibility of establishing a government against extremists and extremist ideologies. He is the type of a leader who has decided and will not quit until achieving his objectives. He noted in his interview, do you think Martin Luther King Jr., when he said, I have a dream, was it easy? It was not easy. And when John F. Kennedy came to bring a change, do you think it was easy? It was not easy. When Malcolm X came and he said, I want to bring change, do you think it was easy? Of course, it was not easy, but they paid the price. They are legends now. They are icons now. They are heroes not only for Americans, they are icons for us, for humanity. Hence, the individuals who have inspired Mr. Faiq's journey towards social justice and establishment of USDFK were very passionate about their cause. Some of the people he mentioned were Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Ahmad Shah Massoud, the ethnic Tajik hero from Khorasan who defeated Soviet communism in Central Asia and Eastern Europe. Also, he mentioned inspirational speakers like John C. Maxwell, an American author, speaker, and pastor, George Washington, and himself for not giving up on his dreams all these years. As a result, the Constitution of USDFK is designed like the Constitution of the United States of America, with many social justice components for the freedom of all people. Today, Mr. Faiq is the type of a leader who's bringing a paradigm shift, changing people's mindset. Mr. Faiq is making his achievements through many public social media platforms by continuously educating the people about their history and identity. Also, he is empowering unheard or silent voices from Khorasan and the voices of the Khorasani diaspora from around the world. His leadership style connects with how Howard Gardner has defined leadership in his book, Leading Minds, as leadership as the capacity of an individual or group to change the thoughts, feelings, and actions of a significant number of individuals. Finally, my own personal reflection. The interview with Mr. Faiq was an excellent opportunity for me to learn about a revolutionary leader like him, who has risen from the ashes of war and conflict and establishing an exiled government for the preservation of his rich indigenous land and identity, which was robbed from them and politicized during the period of English colonialism in the late 1800s. He's another real-life example, like Desmond, who has climbed the ladder of success with education as a tool towards social justice and for a humanistic cause. Also, Mr. Faiq is considered a real leader, according to Sternberg's model, through synthesizing his wisdom, intelligence, and creativity and establishing USDFK. The analysis of this interview with Mr. Faiq allowed me to think critically about his social justice efforts on a deeper level, his character as a leader, and his plight rising from adversity is comparable to many social justice leaders who had fought for the rights and freedoms of their people. Hence, interviewing Mr. Faiq, a real-life leader, was an empowering experience. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen.
بی تو همیشه با هم شانه به شانه گشتم عشق یگانه ای من از تو نشانه ای من بی تو نمک نداره شعر و ترانه سرزمین من خسته خسته از جفایت سرزمین من به سرود و به صدای سرزمین من دردمند و به دوای سرزمین من سرزمین من خسته خسته. That will be great.